Okay, so as you know, I had the Court of Appeal Judge Brown request that the Crown respond to my applications for interim injunctions to stop the chemical attacks right across our country that are mass torturing animals and restructuring all of our bushwater that runs into our town and city water to a frequency of death. Monofluoroacetate, it becomes an enhanced version of the compound after that poison being immersed in the water. And so my first response was to think, well, why are they being so generous? I've had this application with time. Why are they allowing till October 8th to respond when, a standard time would be 10 days, but I've had this application in to stop this across all 4 courts for 5 months, and I had the application in time to stop the mass poisoning right across the country. If any of the judges, Churchman, Wiley, Jagos, Wilford, Courtney J. Fitzgerald, Ryan at the District Court, is it Dawson at the District Court, Miller, last week Judge Gibson, who sat on the application so that the Wellington attack specifically could happen, because I had my application in 2 weeks ago. So I mean, come on, let's face it. I mean, it's great that we've got a new judge. You can't judge a new judge until they've given their decision. So we have a new judge, but they specifically have blocked all of my injunction applications, more than 20 applications to stop these chemical attacks for 5 months. So, again, the International Criminal Court take jurisdiction when they see that the court system nationally is unable or unwilling to deal with the criminal case and the civil case in a manner that is consistent with justice. But it's mainly the criminal case, because my argument against environmental destruction leading to a genocide or an extermination of a population under the definition of the Rome Statute has been a 7-year dedication for me across major ecosystems across the world: coral reefs, rainforest, the Arctic, in defence of. And then last year the ICC accepted my argument against climate change for review, where I look at the private companies who have benefited from selling the dirty fuels that through the extraction process mainly. I mean, definitely through the carbon monoxide out the exhaust fumes and some consumption, but mainly at the extraction process, the point of origin, they are polluting and deadly contaminating the the soil, water and air, and that's never discussed, because that would make the industrialists criminally and financially liable, of course. So the big climate change hoax is about making sure that the blame is shifted from the industrialists, who are mass profiting off causing this destruction at the point of destruction, to the consumers, who really have no choice what comes to market and what they're forced to buy. I mean, the cars are all designed a certain way, the fuels are all sold at a certain price. Most consumers have no choice but to participate in the consumption of dirty fuels. But I'm distracted. Okay, I'm going to tell you about the attacks, and the numbers are so scary. I recalculate them because I think, surely I'm wrong. Okay, but I just did a calculation on the monofluoroacetate attacks. So there's Brodifacoum, there's PAP in the Hawke's Bay and somewhere else. There's a whole lot of other poisons, heaps of cyanide being used. It seems like, especially in the West Coast and Otago, every time they're using monofluoroacetate, they're also using cyanide, because they just want to kill everything in the forest, because this is a war on life. So the numbers are this. So I've calculated if the numbers are accurate, and I don't trust anything that DOC publishes, Doc the Duck publishes, Department of Conservation, or Death of Creation, or Death of Conservation. I really, that's what they are. They're poisoning everything to death under Ardern. They're Ardern soldiers. But 584,000 hectares have been poisoned, okay, this year so far. Well, there's some I'll talk about who is about to be poisoned and who my injunction could benefit. And then I'll talk about Winston Peters. Oh my God, a lot to talk about. Okay, let's talk about the numbers first. 584,353 hectares. My brain's a bit slow because I've suffered serious EMF attacks, like you can't imagine, right in my lobes. For the past month and a half. It's just unbelievable. I don't know if it's government or intelligence agency or what, but it's serious lobotomization, so my brain is literally half functioning. But okay, if they don't publish how many kgs per hectare they're poisoning at the moment. So the ZIP, predator-free, that's funded by Stephen Tyndall, our other friendly local psychopath called, who's the guy with the top party, Kill the Cats party, the guy who said that Jacinda Ardern was lipstick on a pig. Can't remember his name. Anyway, that guy. They fund it. So the guy who owns Trade Me, they finance ZIP, the predator-free program of experimenting how they can kill absolutely everything alive. It's the combination of Next Foundation, who have the Rotorua Island Bird Sanctuary, modelling what New Zealand will be when they've wiped out all the predators, which are you and me, the humans, by poison, mass chemical attacks that are poisoning all our water to sterilise us and cause deadly diseases. That's what Jacinda Ardern was promoting yesterday at the UN, deadly diseases, and terrorism, which she has also funded, and she's trying to get the veto removed so that they can increase terrorism in Syria and destroy that country. And although she has no power to do that, but climate change, which they're artificially inflicting by chemically exterminating all of the species so that they can say climate change has caused the sixth extinction. No, it's government poison. You're doing it deliberately. Okay, let's go back to the numbers. 584,353 hectares at 6 kg a hectare, which is the ZIP number, is 116,870,526 dead people. Potentially. Because, let me explain why. It's 3,506,000 kgs. So you transform that into grams, and 30 grams can kill a human. So it's like 3 billion grams, 3.5 billion grams of poison baits that have been spread, and the baits themselves are 0.015% active ingredient. They say that could be 5%, like they're selling a possum paste and they make it at 5%. So this is only if the baits are truly what they say. So if they're truly what they say, it's 3.5 billion kgs have been spread across the 584,000 hectares, then that is enough to kill 116 million people. Nearly 117 million people. Well, we've only got 4.8 million. Why be so excessive? I mean, Jacinda Ardern could cut her budget from 436 million to 100 million and still kill everyone. And probably still mass torture, poison nature to death. I mean, it's a bit excessive to drop enough poison to kill 117 million people. Technically, 870,526 million people. I mean, that's if you eat it directly. So, of course, let's get real. It was dropped right through our rivers and streams that run out into our ocean to kill the ocean. There's a lot of fish out there. So maybe that number is meant to include the 4.8 million people of New Zealand, plus all the people who we export our poison to, plus all the tourists who come here and walk through our bush and drink from the stream this poison, plus all the fish. That maybe is the count. That's why they're targeting that much poison. Who knows? I mean, it's a lot. Okay, but that goes in the water. It dilutes. Yes, it dilutes. You can't see it anymore, but it metabolizes into the fluorocitrate molecule that travels whole. That fluorocitrate molecule does not dissipate or dilute or disappear, as they try and tell you. It stays whole and it travels through the food and water system to poison our sheep and beef and dairy, and to poison our humans. And that is why people are going to have massive gut aches, heart attacks, strokes, cancers of the reproductive organs, depressions, anger. It's the 3 anger minerals. If you test your hair after a good dosing of 1080, the 3 anger minerals. Oh my God, it's just crazy. Okay, but let's be fair. If they only drop 2 kg per hectare, but ZIP have been doing all the 6 kg per hectare doses to show how we as a country can be absolutely predator-free. Remember, we are the apex predator, and this poison kills us. They say possums, but you die just like the possum if you have it. So when it's going in your town and city water supply, you're going to die too. You know, the other thing it does is it not only are you absorbing that molecule, and then if you absorb enough of that molecule and your body can't metabolize it, even if it metabolizes it out, you still get scarring of the heart and brain. All the animal studies prove that. There's no human studies, of course, because it's not legal to experiment on the human population with deadly poison unless you're Jacinda Ardern and you want to drop enough poison in the last 5 months since I've been trying to stop her in court to kill 116 million people. You know, there's a reason why she has a chin that looks like Hitler. I did the timing on it. I think she actually Hitler could have died, shot, reincarnated in Jacinda Ardern in Murupara. I was in Ripara, Broadland, so just down the road from Murupara. She just Hitler reincarnated right down the road from me 2 years after I came to the planet. You think this is a bit of a spiritual war going on? It's my new theory. Oh my God. Okay, but if they drop 2 kgs per hectare, then on 584,353 hectares, that is 1,168,705 kgs of poison and dropped. So kgs, convert that to grams, so times 1,000, divide it by 30 grams, which is enough to kill a human, and you're killing 38,956 people in 842. 38,956,842 people. So let's just round that up. 39 million people. So even at the standard 2 kgs per hectare, if it's only 0.015% active ingredient, not the 5% active ingredient like the possum paste they're making, which they could easily be, upping the dose on the pellets, even at that amount, Jacinda Ardern has dropped in the last... Now, let's face it, I had my application in to stop her on May 28th because that's the date that she announced this fake bogus M-bovis disease narrative, which is the bioaccumulation of 1080 poisoning that is going to happen in the stock as they start to bioaccumulate this poison that has just been dropped rampantly all over our country, like only a crazy person would do, to mass torture animals all over the country. That number... 30 grams to kill a human, but to kill a possum and a rat, you'd be dropped probably enough to kill about 500,000 wildlife. 500 million. Oh, so disgusting. Anyway. Okay, here's what's interesting about Winston Peters. So I have written to him today because the judge has asked for the response of the Crown. Well, I've seen the Crown's responses. They're pointless. They're substanceless. They never have an argument. There's no argument. There's no defence for chemical weapons attacks. So they just say, oh, it's vexatious, it's frivolous, it's not real. We're fine to poison the entire country, poison all of nature to death, and inflict climate change. Basically, their responses are not worth the paper they're written on. So, because, in our court system so far, they haven't had to provide a defence because apparently they're free to, according to Judge Wilford's decision, that is on appeal now with the Court of Appeal. And that's a 3-month process, by the way. It could be 3 months before a hearing date, but we'll see. But according to his decision, he doesn't have the power to stop a government genocidal extermination program, crime against humanity, maniacal craziness of poisoning all of nature to death. No, Ardern's free to do that. No court can stop it, apparently. It's perfectly fine. It's a political ideology. If they want to kill you, good luck. Best of luck. Enjoy the rest of your life. Okay, so here's the thing. Back to Winston Peters. I need to concentrate because I just, it's quite humorous reading that she's just dropped enough to poison to kill between 39 million and 16 million people. In a population, we only have 4.8 million people. Jesus. She's killing nature. That's why. Because she wants to create the 6th extinction so she can go back to give speeches. I'm very glad that I haven't seen her give the UN Climate Week speech so far. Quite pleased about that. I hope that has been permanently cancelled, as it should be. As I lobbied very hard to make sure it was, because no one who's under review by the International Criminal Court should be giving a Climate Week opening speech when they're dropping systematic chemical weapons attacks all over their country to poison her people and kill nature, because this is worse than Hitler, Arguably, Hitler didn't chemically exterminate all 6 million people. A lot of them died of starvation in camps and things like this. She's chemically exterminating us. I mean, so I followed up my request from Doc, and I am going to get to the Winston Peters thing. I followed up my request from Doc today because I've been asking for all the historic poisoning. Because if I can add up and say that she's dropped enough to kill between 39 million and 116 million people in the last 2 months, because my claim held her off since May, and then I had my 3-hour hearing for the injunction to stop all the drops across the country on August 21st, and 2 days later the West Coast attack happened, and then the next week Taupo and Turangi happened, and then there appears to have been systematic drops all over the country since then. So criminal and so devastating, it makes me sick because, of course, the poison 1080 is only one. There's so much budophicum being used, cyanide, the PAP poison, which is what you inhale to die by poison now, that they want to use to kill all cats because they're crazy. And they run our government and our state and our crown, and arguably a lot of judges in our court, because they've all ruled to kill you too. Although, I do laugh at Judge Wolford's judgment, because he didn't say I was wrong. He just said, and he ignored all my civil arguments. It was a civil case that he was hearing, nothing about it, written about it. But he did say just that he didn't have the power to stop it. It's like saying, yeah, we know they're exterminating you with chemicals, but no power to stop it. Sorry, it's a government program. You want to stop extensive government programs. They're extensively killing you, so sorry, the court has no power. I mean, it's funny. It is kind of funny. You've got to admit. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Winston Peters part. So I wrote to Winston today, and I said, under Article 68 of the Rome Statute, it is incumbent upon the state to protect the victims of the crime from the crime continuing. Now, this has been the case the whole way, of course, but the difference is once again, Ardern is out of the country. Praise God. And Winston is Prime Minister. So Winston is facing a situation where his constituents in Northland are about to be poisoned to death. And already, it's so sad. Up in Northland, you can go up there and the trees are becoming black. They're dying. The trees are all dying in the forest. And because the Queen has dropped 1080 monofluoacetate since 1953. She's been killing the forest. And just like they do in the Amazon, they're killing the forest. This is climate. They're creating climate change. Trust me, there's no question. So I said, so clearly Judge Brown has asked for the court to, the Crown to take their time to give a response to me. I mean, why so leisurely? We've been in the court for 5 months. They can give a response in a day, and their response will be like 2 pages of nothing, and voila, choose to protect the population or don't. But, no need to give them 3 weeks to do a whole lot more chemical attacks around the country, because that is not in the interest of expedient, representation of justice. And that is what the court is there to do, is in a case like this, if it's about protecting many, many lives from a deadly attack or an irrational government program that's beyond their power, etc., then it should be ruled on immediately. But okay, they've got till 8th of October. Well, on the 1st of October, Northland is attacked, and that is Winston Peters' constituency. So he, as Prime Minister at the moment, is arguably who the Solicitor General's office is representing. So I have asked the Solicitor General to give an undertaking not to poison until such time that Judge Brown makes his decision on this case, on the injunction, which correlates to the appeal. So the appeal is to stop these programs permanently because they're crazy and they're divesting farmers. Farmers will, Richard Branson is going to get his way. 20 years' time, dairy, sheep and beef will be over. All that snow, kill the lambs. I mean, there's just going to be a cocktail of sieges laid like these chemical attacks and natural disasters, weaponized weather and water, okay, to totally divest our farmers and our primary industry. And Richard Branson's going to turn our country into the hemp farm that he's been over here promoting. It's not a joke. It's real. This is happening. It's a theft of our country. And with this communist regime that they're planning, that Mayor Goff's been instigating in our city by removing all our car parks so we don't have independent mobility. Next they'll be outlawing cars because of the air quality. But they're not taxing carbon monoxide in the Paris Agreement, because that tracks back to the responsibility of the car manufacturers and the fuel sellers. No. They're just removing your freedoms, taking away your car parks first so you can't use your cars, and then taking away your cars because they'll say that. They'll produce all these scientific studies saying that the air pollution causes Alzheimer's, the air pollution causes autism, the air pollution does this and that. So no one's allowed cars anymore. So no more independent mobility. Of course, the real future is that they've got technology. Even NASA has solar car races, like a solar car racing team. They've got technology. We can have completely sustainable cars, all of us, but take it away from us because they're communists. So all our public land's being sold at the moment. So I've got my appeal at the Court of Appeal on all our public land being stolen at the moment by I always go to say Pol Pot, Mayor Goff, disposing of all 331 properties of 2,500 square metres or larger. That's our marinas, parks, car parks, everything big that we own, the public, disposing of at secret prices. We don't get to know what they are, so it's massive divestment of it's a grand theft of public land. It can be worth, the 2011 prices were 5.4 billion at capital value. That's easily 15 to 30 billion of market value right now. That could all be sold at 2 billion and we wouldn't know. Mass theft. To build an irrational level of housing for which there's no demand, unless all the countryside are poisoned and they all have to shift to the city for this massive housing that's been built in preparation of knowing that, because we're dropping enough poison to kill between 39 and 116 million people in the last 2 months alone, in the last month, because remember, I held off Ardern from poisoning from May. And still, a lot of drops have been set aside from that effort, which is still great, but a lot have gone ahead. And that means that within 2 days of my High Court hearing, when no decision was made, but they were obviously told that they could keep going because the judge was ruling that he couldn't stop a government program. So, since the 24th of August, I think, or the 23rd of August, this mass poisoning has happened enough to kill between 116 and 39 billion people. And those rivers and streams run out into our oceans. So your food is now seriously toxified, It's devastating. Anyway, okay, so the point is, I'm sorry, my brain is like seriously less functional than normal because I've been literally lobotomized by EMF frequency. I've even got a frequency through my room like that. My ears are ringing all the time. It's so frustrating, because it's just taking the one thing that I value, which is my brain, which of course they want to harm. So I don't do any more applications to the court. But it's just the price we pay. So, okay. I've asked that the Solicitor General, whose boss, technically, is currently Winston Peters, gives an undertaking not to poison until the Judge Brown makes a decision at the Court of Appeal on my injunctions. Now, what that means is that Winston Peters right now has to choose between Hitler, Ardern, who is open-air exterminating our population with chemicals but has the majority vote and power in his cabinet, and his constituents in the Northland as to whether he wants them to have, deadly poison forests and increasing cancers and human destruction up there. So this is a really interesting choice he's got to make, because if the Solicitor General give me that undertaking, then Winston Peters as Prime Minister has made them, because that date is arguably set so that these poisoning attacks can continue without obstruction, which is not the way justice is supposed to work, So I don't know who directs who around here, but certainly no one's directing anyone to save any lives. However, Winston Peters is Prime Minister at the moment. Ardern is out of the country, ironically giving speeches at the Peace Summit. Well, I was at the Peace Summit 2 years ago. I was listening to a whole lot of the nation-state representatives, diplomats, talking about how war will never stop because it's so profitable. And I had just had the International Criminal Court confirm my legal argument against Syria, which argues that it argues all the defence companies, their criminal liability, and the fact that the International Criminal Court has the power to seize all of their money and freeze all of their money so they can't make weapons anymore. Well, then that's the end of war. And to render all of the companies that make weapons that they can't hold any profit. Well, if they can't profit from anything, including, coupled with my climate change argument, they can't profit from any of the dirty industry fuels either, extracting them. So if they can't profit from any dirty industry, and they can't profit from the wars that they instigate to steal the resources to produce dirty industry, then there's no profit in it. So all of these, horribly corrupt treacherous men who do wicked, wicked things for profit, well, there'd be no motivation anymore. So all they need to do is prosecute my Syrian war argument and my climate change argument and this argument, and voila, the world is fixed. Basically, I've just been, laying the plan of how to fix the world with the last 7 years of my life at great personal cost, and now, EMF lobotomy, but, still surviving. Okay, so the point is, that's the question. I know this is taking a long time. People always tell me to be short, but it's not in my nature. So, Winston Peters has to decide. Does he decide with killer Ardern, or does he decide with his people in Northland and stop their poisoning? Because right now, all he has to do is direct the Solicitor General to give me the undertaking that no poison attacks continue and no mass slaughter of our wildlife populations continue, state-forced communist slaughter, until such time that Judge Brown at the Court of Appeal makes his decision. So, if you're in Northland, I suggest that you spend your efforts contacting Winston Peters and asking him to direct the Solicitor General to give that undertaking. What that means is on the 1st of October, they're planning to poison you between the 1st of October and the 8th of November. And if that undertaking is given, at least until after the 8th of October, after Judge Brown makes his decision on this maniac war on life that we're running, this irrational political ideology that has been forced on us by, National and Labour Party leaders alike. I call them the Mana Party. Have you seen that Muppet song, Mana? It's the only thing I can think of when I watch Ardern and Bridges talk. They've been prepped for years. Look at all their historic interviews where they're side by side. They've been prepped as your fake PR leaders for years. Wow, so sick. Because we are not in a democracy right now, folks. Anyway, okay. So, I just want to tell you a few more areas because I've just been summarising. It's taken me all day just to summarise the 1080 drops. I've got to still summarise Britificum and everything else. I mean, it's seriously difficult to follow Doc's website. So, obviously, Auckland's been attacked. Now, on the website, it says Auckland's only been attacked 2,613 hectares. So there was one court action about, to mimic mine, arguably, because it was like written in 24 hours an instant when I was promoting my injunction for the Nuas, which I'd lobbied internationally to really give power to stop that because it was poisoning the water of 1 million people. But it was promoted as like 45,000 hectares that were being poisoned. Well, there's only been 2,612 hectares poisoned, which is not a lot. And that was on the 21st and 22nd. And someone who watched the helicopters said that usually when they were pre-feeding, they were going back and forth like hardcore. And that's obviously when they were preparing the poisoning of 45,000 hectares. But actually, they only poisoned 2,600 hectares. So it's really not a lot. I've asked someone to go and find me, as horrible as this is, some poisoned animals, because, of course, that's how our plague's going to happen. If they poisoned 40,000 hectares, 45,000 hectares, and all those dead animals were lying through the bush, well, those mosquitoes that will fester on their blood and the bees that will fester on their dead poisoned blood pollinate all our food system and inject deadly sicknesses like Lyme disease into our bloodstreams by mosquito. I mean, this is a crazy. Oh, and flu. You'll have blood poisoning. You'll have the flu. That's what it looks like when the animals get this 1080 poisoning, sublethal doses. It looks like they've got pneumonia, respiratory problems, heart attacks, and deadly reproductive organs. How many teenagers are in hospital right now with ovarian cancer? How many young mums have got breast cancer? 1080 poisoning. Sorry, but this is government attack on our life. And it's got to stop, it's not going to keep going. The thing is, the blatantly ridiculous thing is that the International Criminal Court accepted this case for review on July 23rd. I had stopped all the drops since May 28th, since my claim. On July 23rd, the ICC accepted this. I served all of the councillors around the country, all of the regional councillors who are now criminally liable for these drops. And before the drops, and I said, if you do these drops, you will be criminally liable. This is a chemical weapons attack against your population. The world knows what monofluoroacetate is because all the world has banned it, But so I suggest that you don't do this. And they've all gone ahead and done it. Such arrogance. I mean, they've just basically given the fingers to the ICC and said, no concern. World's highest court. Just they're existing, really, to stop chemical weapons attacks. That's like the majorest crime at the moment. And voila, they all go ahead and bomb all our rivers and streams that run into our town and city water supplies. They say as long as they turn off the dams or protect it for like 4 days, it's fine. Well, look at these. They say they leave the poison signs up for 8 months. 8 months after the poison is dropped. 8 months they say it's poisonous area. So then they tell you the water's fine within a week. And Ardern has given radio interviews telling you it's fine within a week. Well, that's why she's got Hitler's chin, because it's a flat-out lie, because this is one of the most lethal chemicals in the world, and at minimum, it's a sterility chemical. At minimum, we are going to be unable to have children. They're engineering the age of infertility, you know. And the people involved in this were involved with this tracks into even the Bushes, you know. They were involved in the eugenics program in America that only got made illegal in the 70s. Okay, so I just want to go through. So Waikato has been massively bombed. There's been 5 attacks in Waikato. Bay of Plenty, just one. East Coast, just one. Taranaki has been bombed 4 times in Taranaki, just recently, since the 11th of August. And Manawatu, Wanganui, they have 2 coming up starting on the 18th of October, and others start 5 coming up, 3 starting on the 1st of October and 2 starting on the 18th of October. So my injunction is of real value to the people in Manawatu and Wanganui, because they've had 2 bombs apparently since the 11th of August. But here's the thing, it says 3 bombs since the 11th of August, but it says the date between the 11th of August and the 30th of December, but Doc have it listed that they've already done those 3, but there's 3 more, 5 more, sorry. So this really makes a difference. My injunction can stop the Manawatu and Wanganui bombing. Hawke's Bay have been bombed twice and have nothing coming up, so they're done. That was between the 6th of August and the 30th of June next week. Now, again, it says it's done, but, you know, again, the doc is so, it's so vague. I mean, on the 2nd of August, when I printed out their summaries, the Auckland bombing wasn't even listed, you know. So they can just add it in at the last minute. If you're not checking their website all the time, you don't know when you're about to be lethally attacked by the world's most deadly chemical. It's terrible. But this is modern-day chemical warfare under mass propaganda to depopulate and structurally reform and inflict climate change so they can engineer unimaginable structural reform on this country through the carbon legislation that will divest our economy, our currency, everything that we value, our private property ownership, everything by 2030. That's their deadline. We're the model state. Anyway, so Hawke's Bay twice, again since the 6th of August, but the dates go out to the 30th of June. Wellington, Kapiti, Wairarapa. Obviously, again, you know, I had those applications in to stop this at the Court of Appeal and at every other court. So across 11 judges now. Well, the 11th judge is still to make his decision, so we'll see. But of the other 10, you know, they made orders that have killed you. You know, your family members will die. People will die from this. There's no question. You'll think it's a heart attack, flu, motor neuron disease, nervous system depression, reproductive cancers. You know, all of just such a wide range of your body breaking down, because this fluorocitrate molecule mimics this citrate molecule, and it disrupts your Krebs cycle, which tortures your cells to death and mutates them and just breaks your body down, you know. It's terrible. Okay, Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough. Now, this is not 1080, but it just really, really got to me, because there's no poisoning planned at the moment in Nelson, Tasman and Marlborough, except for the Tautarunui camp. It's a school camp. They're poisoning it with fipronil from the 15th of November. Tautarunui camp, that's a school camp. Shit. I mean, you know, this is just insane. You would never put poison in a school camp area. Fipronil. I haven't checked the details of that poison, but if you're in that area, Nelson, Tasman, you should really, really care about this, because that's poison in an area of children, in a river area of children, and they'll swim in that river. And it's 15th of November. This is a massive human experiment of poison. It's just disgusting. So 15th of November, that's due to start till the 13th of March in 2020. So 2 years of poisoning a river that children will swim in. So if you're in Nelson and Tasman, get onto that. Marlborough, Clarence Reserve, 35,000 hectares, 35,518 hectares. It's just disgusting. They said they've done that, but again, the date ranges are so wide. 16th of May till the 20th of December. On what day out of all those months will the attack be? But they said it's done. Okay. They're killing the West Coast. They're stealing the West Coast land. Seriously, if you look at the West Coast, they've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 26 drops of monofluoacetate. 26 attacks. 26. They're killing our beautiful Southern Alps with poison, torture poison all over, mass torturing all our wildlife, poisoning our livestock, destroying our rivers and streams. They're permanently restructured to an enhanced version of the frequency of the poison compound. People who tell you otherwise are hobbits who live in New Zealand, who are operating with archaic Neanderthal science that is ridiculous. The latest science in the world has proven categorically that the water restructures to the frequency of the chemical that's put in it. Okay. In the West Coast, on the 15th of October and on the 22nd of October, there are 5 more attacks due. So, everything counts. But with so many other attacks already having happened, it's so tragic. But there are 5 more attacks too that my injunction could help to stop. Mikanui, South Paparoa, Abbey Rocks, and Modaki, Whakapai. Yeah. Okay, so, but again, that relies on either Winston Peters giving an undertaking not to poison until such time that the judge has made a decision, or for the judge to make a decision after receiving the Crown's situation on the 8th of October and stopping this deadly, deadly chemical attack against our nation. Okay, Canterbury. Wow, Canterbury. 6 attacks. 6 attacks so far, and another 2 beginning on the 28th of September. So again, in Canterbury, it's Matthias part, Wilberforce Matthias. So again, if you're in Canterbury, Winston Peters can force the Solicitor General to give an undertaking right now to stop the poisoning until the judge makes a decision, so that the position of the case is preserved. That would be the honourable thing to do, and those attacks can be prevented. Fiordland, Southland and Otago, so there's only been 1 attack in Fiordland, only 31 hectares, so tiny, so really insignificant. Southland is being heavily attacked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 17 or 18 attacks. But here's the thing, a lot of them are about to happen, so my injunction could stop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My injunction could stop 9 attacks. Okay, so that's in Southland. Mouseback, Southern Ara Mountains, Progress Valley, Slope Down South, Waikawa. Okay, so if my injunction's granted, it would stop all those attacks. Otago. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, Otago's been completely destroyed and stolen. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Okay, about 27, maybe 28 attacks. Now, a lot of them, again, are new. Again, are starting on the 30th of October. So, Hina, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 attacks could be stopped by my injunction. So you can check it out, but it's Hina Hina, Mouseback, Owaka in the Catlins, Progress Valley again, Slope Down, etc, etc. I need to check some double ups of names between Otago and Southland, but they are next to each other. So okay, so anyway, that's the situation. So Southland and Otago would be really, really helped by my injunction. Northland will be really helped by my injunction. And that school camp in Nelson, Tasman area. Wow, that's so evil, man, to poison a school camp area. I mean, kids are going to be in that in the summer being poisoned because they start poisoning in November. Right, Wellington, I'm very sorry that you got bombed. I had applications right there in front of the judge. They should have been granted. There's no way that the water of 400,000 people should have been poisoned. 3 reservoirs in Wellington, 2 on one side of the Rumatakas, 1 on the other. It's terrible, you know? It's just terrible. It's unimaginable. This is an unimaginable crime. Okay, now, as I said, I've got a long-standing request in with DOC to find out all the historic poisoning, because you're going to find that if they've been dropping enough poison to kill, between, like now, 39 million people and 116 million people, depending on whether it's 2 kgs a hectare or 5 kgs, 6 kgs a hectare, every year for however many years, and that's dependent on whether it is truly still 0.015% Bates instead of the 5% possum paste. And I mean, this is only one of the chemicals they're spreading. You should see the list of poisons that the Greater Waikato Council have. And Wellington, probably Waikato as well. So many deadly poisons. It's terrible. And again, I'll just go back. There's that other place, is it Wanganui, that will be really helped by if I get my injunction. Manawatu, Wanganui. There's 5 attacks that will be avoided if I get... Well, first, we need Winston Peters to give an undertaking. Okay, so this is a super long video, but I've just been summarising that all day, so I thought some of you might find it interesting. And again, it's just disappointing that the courts don't give an outright order to stop this. This is an irrational program. It's completely illegal. There's no, the OECD standards of bioaccumulation of toxicity tests are not met at all. It's completely illegal. And the HNSO standards are not met at all. There's no safety of dropping massive tons of torture poison, toxic nerve agent poison in the ecosystem. It's absolutely against the law to mass torture wildlife. It's just ridiculous. How many animals have been screaming to death across this country? I feel so gutted that I've been overseas for 10 years and not knowing this is happening. But it's Ardern's budget, which is scary. Remember, she's the protege of Clark, who put 50,000 into this, 50 million into this program as the first sort of real institutionalized policy of this killing program by chemicals. And they were dropping near Wellington, and they caused a whole lot of miscarriages. And Stephen Palmer, the medical officer of health, wanted to get it investigated, and Helen Clark stopped it, and so did Annette King, and then David Shearer, is it? David Parker? David, what's his name? The ex-Speaker of the House for National. He buried it, it was, they're all in on this. They know what they're doing. Our Parliament is not a fair electioner. There's no way that all these criminals can be in there conducting this program and knowing what they're doing, poisoning our product, exporting poison product to the world. How many people have baby cancers because they've been consuming New Zealand milk products? Sorry, but we need to get honest about this, because no matter what happens now, our economy is crashing. So people who know what's happening with 1080, that it's poisoning our product, they need to understand that they're going to deliberately crash our economy by 2030, because that is how they're going to get us to run on carbon currency and force us into the UN stables for the administrators who are in there working on having the UN as global government by 2030. This is promoted by Gates and the Pope. All of them. You know, this is old school money, new school money, Silicon Valley. You know, when I see the South Island being so deadly poisoned, Otago on the West Coast and Marlborough and so much poison, I just think, God, that someone's stealing the South Island. And then you've got Peter Thiel, who just brought a whole lot of stuff land there, and you know, he's mates with Morgan and Tyndall, and who's funding this program. And you just think, you know, there's something going on here. Anyway, okay, well, that's a very long video. I just wanted to give you that update and just tell you that, you know, our friendly smiling assassin who runs this country, sorry to be honest, but it's just dropped enough poison to kill 39 million people or 160 million people, 116 million people, depending on how many kgs per hectare, and she's dropped, which DOC don't declare, so it's probably the 6 kg per hectare that Zip have done so much work to test that it kills absolutely everything and nothing comes back to life because we are killing our forest. When you see this propaganda of iwi, and here's the real positive note to end on for Australians, one of the iwi giving a video, giving an interview to our propaganda station called News Hub, owned by Oak Tree hedge fund, and someone said Richard Branson's got a whole lot of shares in it, which doesn't surprise me at all, since I swear to God he's stealing our country for his new hemp farm, and his fake meat, his new fake meat grown in the lab, because he's killing the end of dairy and beef and sheep. Which, you know, I'm not into animal slaughter either. So, I mean, I know there's no right solution. But we are at an interesting time where, because we've just had all of our livestock poisoned, if we had a second reserve bank body corporate under the Act, which we can issue under the Act, they don't have exclusivity. This international cabal who currently have our control of our currency, we can issue a second reserve bank body corporate. We can have a New Zealand controlled supply of money that's interchangeable with the NZD. We can finance our farmers through this crash. Then we can work out how we rectify the system so that we become the world's leader in remediation of this massive poisoning program that this criminal group are inflicting against all countries of the world, with New Zealand suffering at the worst and first. And I know I was going to say something else, but I'm just going to skip to the fact that my first knowledge of mass poisoning of ecosystems by aerial drops was the war on drugs, because in the rainforest, what you hear the war on drugs because, you know, some lazy Americans are, you know, spending their money on shooting out because that's their choice. Good on them. Do what you want. But when you go for a war on drugs, you're spraying these same poisons. They call it herbicides and pesticides, but it's killing humans all over the indigenous in the rainforest. This is their indigenous land that they've lived on for thousands of years, and it renders it unable to grow food. They have to travel for the first time in thousands of years to the supermarket, and a whole lot of them die very quickly of very, very agonizing, painful diseases. And these are people with no pain medication, no filter on their water. They are mass poisoned to death. And with this new war on drugs, what they're doing is twofold. They'll exterminate indigenous populations. And second, they're going to absolutely poison the rainforest to death. It's a tragedy. We have to understand what's happening. They are artificially creating climate change, killing nature right across the world. They're mass dumping plastic in the oceans to create this plastic issue. And all this poison is running from the rivers and streams out into the ocean. What's happening in Florida? It's poison. All these collapses of all these colonies, like penguin colonies, and you know, all the mass slaughter of whales and dolphins, and they're really, in combination. This is a group crime that stretches across countries, and they are killing the earth. So unless people start to realise that there's a group artificially creating climate change in order to create one world government at the UN by 2030, then the next 10 years, a lot of pain and death and suffering, millions and millions will die, probably me first, by EMF attacks. But until then, I shall continue to write cases to our court who I don't believe are acting consistent with justice, and that has to come to a day of reckoning. But let's hold on to the fact that the International Criminal Court are there to stop chemical weapons attacks. This is very clear what this is. The crime has been committed. All of the people responsible were warned. They went ahead and did it after my High Court hearing. And that means that it's categorically evidence to the International Criminal Court that the justice system is failing to protect the population from these chemical attacks. Whether they are unable to or unwilling to, I'm not sure. but all the orders allow our death to continue. And so the ICC must step in and act. All I can hope is that my injunction application buys time, that Winston Peters cares about his Northland constituency more than Jacinda Ardern's death program, and he acts to protect them and asks the Solicitor General to give an undertaking on my injunction until the court makes a decision, so that the court that the government are not inflicting this death program whilst the court are deliberating on the matter. And if he stands with Northland, then he'll stand to protect all the other places that I've just talked about. And, we buy some time and give the International Criminal Court some time to act, because, they haven't published all their plans for 2019. Some of these dates lead into 2019. Like I'm looking at one of them here. The date is 1st of October, so soon. But before my 8th of October for the Crown to respond, till the 19th of September 2019. So they have got some plans already published for the poisoning of next year, but you can guarantee it's going to be huge, It's going to be huge. But at what point do they just poison, increase the doses without telling us? Even they're not saying how many kgs they're dropping on these brochures. But even what they say on the permits, they lie. On some of the permits say, this water area is protected, and then you go and look, and the helicopters dropped the baits right through that water area. So what they're telling us and what's on the permits, it's entirely different once they're out flying in the helicopters. So it's so dangerous what they're doing. They're killing nature. They're killing our country. We don't survive this level of poisoning. It has to stop. But, we need a judge's order for that. So pray.